The Jaguar Mk10 put the Cadillac into Coventry. I mean, look at it, it's huge. It was the widest car on sale in the UK when it was introduced in October 1961. But despite its huge dimensions, it was somewhat overshadowed. For one, the Jaguar E-Type was introduced a few months earlier at the Geneva Motor Show. And actually, the Mk10 was overshadowed by its successor, the XJ6. So we thought we'd take a drive in this glorious 1966 example to see what a Mk10 is like today.
But first, our friends at Lancaster Insurance are giving you the chance to win this Sealy 12-volt cordless power tool kit, including hammer drill, ratchet wrench, impact driver, and more. Click the link in the description to enter, and good luck.
So the Jaguar Mk10 then is huge. There's no getting away from it. I mean, in actual fact, it does use the same wheelbase as the Mk9 that it replaced, but it was a wider track by about 8 inches. And clearly what they were going for was the American market. It certainly had the space, and it certainly had the race, but with the initial 3.8 engine, it probably didn't quite have the pace. No one can deny its imperious looks, but for some reason, it didn't really capture the imagination. It was more expensive than the homegrown American competition, so the sales weren't electrifying over there, and it was probably just a bit too big and ungainly for European tastes. The Mk10 though was quite game-changing. It was a monocoque construction, so it replaced the more traditional Mk9, and of course it was powered by the 3.8 XK engine that appeared under the bonnet of the E-Type, mated to a 3-speed automatic box, independent rear suspension, the design of which carried Jaguar pretty much right through to the 90s. Certainly had all the makings of this being a prestigious sports grand touring saloon, but for one reason or another it didn't really capture the imagination in the way that it was hoped. In 1966 the 3.8 XK engine was improved with the 4.2, and the Mk10 soon after became known as the 420G. The model lineup by then was actually bewildering as well, because you still had the Mk2, but you also had the S-Type, and you had the 420 saloon, and then the 420G. And during its sort of 8-9 year life, only shifted 25,000 units. That's a port. By then was meant to be a global car manufacturer like Jaguar. And it's a shame really, because while it clearly wasn't a commercial success, the Mk10 isn't actually a bad car at all. And while it was wide in the 1960s, in modern day speak, it's actually no wider than most SUVs you'll see on the market. We're kind of humming along now at about 50 miles an hour, 3,000 RPM, but the ride is beautiful. It's that epitome of that kind of wafty ride that is often used to describe a Jaguar. This huge steering wheel looks like it's come from a ship, and in a way that's quite apt, because sometimes it does feel like you're navigating a large boat. It's very floaty, the turning circle's not great, it rolls, it pitches and it leans, but that's all part of the occasion, I think. You're presented with this array of dials and this acres of wood. It's just astonishing. There's a real sense of occasion when you drive something like this. Bit of chrome beading right down the middle of the bonnet. You can just make out the chrome leaping cat at the front there, giving you a real sense of purpose. And of course there's acres of space. You can feel the width in here, these huge seats. And what must it be like to be in the back? I mean, definitely the way to travel back there, it's just imperious. I'm gonna go around a roundabout now. What's this? These bench seats don't hold you in at all, of course, so you really feel the wobble. I'm holding on with the steering wheel. It accelerates with smoothness. It's got a guttural roar, which is quite purposeful. By the time you get to 1966, Jaguar enlarged the XK engine to 4.2, so you get 265 brake horsepower, and 0 to 60 in just over 10 seconds. That was pretty quick standards by the day. But it wasn't about traffic light Grand Prix in a car like this. This was about effortless performance. I think something Jaguar's always tried to live up to. When this car went on sale, it was around £2,300, which was expensive of its day. Apply a bit of inflation and work out what that is in today's money. It's about £35,000. And examples like this are for sale at anywhere between, say, £20,000 and £30,000. If you consider what E-Type values have done in that time, you get to appreciate actually quite how good value a Mk10 is. I've got to say, I'm really enjoying this though. And you're initially overwhelmed by its size. The steering is quite vague, but you soon get used to that. And you then gradually relax into it, and it's just a glorious space, it really is. It's lovely. So the Mark 10 then is not a bad car. Its sales figures will tell you otherwise, and as ever I'm drawn to the underdog. The XJ6 Series 1 is undoubtedly the better car, and yet you can't help but admire the sheer audacity of the Mark 10. I love that car manufacturers sometimes have these flourishes. Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, but it's all part of the journey. And actually the Mark 10 is actually a very nice place to be when you're having such a journey.